I'm joined by the policy advisor at the National Employer Association of South Africa, that's NEASA, Luthando Nondaba. Good afternoon, Luthando. Thanks for joining us here on the agenda.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Of course, it was under the presidency of Jacob Zuma that we saw the introduction of the Ministry of Small Business Development. If we look at how this has impacted on the growth and the sort of the workings of the industry, what sort of impact has it had up to this point?
Well, obviously, one of the hurdles that we have seen with the large bulk of the small enterprises is their inability to access finance and to, enter into the markets, and also their disputes in relation to non-payment of funding that is due to them. So I believe the introduction of this bill was a very progressive move towards assisting SMMEs in that regard.
Mm-hmm. And how is that going to make things easier for them?
Well, one of the very progressive moves made by this bill is obviously trying to streamline and also the combination of SEDA and SEFA and the establishment of the new Small Enterprise Development Finance Agency, which is going to be the SEDFA. And obviously, the role that institution is going to play is to implement financial and non-financial support programs for small enterprises in order to promote a service delivery network that increases the contribution of small enterprises into the economy. And secondly, also the very progressive move with this bill, the act now, is the establishment of the office of the ombud. So basically, the mischief which this act tries to remedy is the lack of effective and affordable access to a justice mechanism for small enterprises. It's very known that business-to-business disputes and late or non-payment of amounts due to small enterprises is a significant reality in the lives of many small enterprises across the country. And so I believe that with this act and this dispute mechanism, such hurdles could be overcome.
Mm-hmm. One of the other aspects is the protection for small businesses, also looking at practices in relation to what is prohibited or considered to be unfair trading practices. What
Yes.
exactly is the bill talking, or the act talking about when it makes these references?
Well, that is one of the one of the vagaries in this act, in the respect that it contains provisions that would allow a minister or empower a minister to declare certain practices relating to small enterprises as unfair and to regulate such practices. However, it's very mum on exactly what those practices would be. And so to that extent, it could create an unnecessary over-regulation to the SMME dispensation. And as we know, over-regulation does, at the end of the day, stifle a growth of small businesses and hinder economic growth. So I would think a more pragmatic and more economically sound regulation, which does not stifle business enterprise, would make for a better regulation in the discipline.
What do you mean when you say there's over-regulation in terms of this? Does this not bring more structure to the small business sector?
Well, it will all depend on what the practices that would fall within that ambit of regulation. Because if the regulation it would inhibit or go against sound free market principles or economic logic, to that extent, it could stifle the free working of a business.
Mm-hmm. Now, just looking at the impact that this legislation could have in terms of the sector itself, organizations such as yourself, and taking small business forward. Of course, you're quite hopeful that it is going to bring the changes and going to establish the industry in such a way that it does grant any prospective entrepreneurs and so on access to that funding and so on. What sort of regulation do you think might be needed for this? Because with the establishment of SEDVA, it sounds like things are going to become a lot more easier for anyone that wants to go that route. And of course, entrepreneurship is such a vital aspect of the South African economy.
Well, a very important aspect of that is that SEDVA itself is just an amalgamation of existing agencies, being SEDA and SEFA, which initially are responsible for supporting infrastructure to small businesses or at the pre-funding level, and with SEFA providing post-investment support through a network of experienced, mentors to provide industry advice at a very high level to SMMEs. So, and also then obviously providing the finance in that regard. So it will be very interesting to see going forward how then this centralized approach, where the two entities are now going to fall under this one entity, will be any different to what has been done by SEDA and SEFA. However, given the newly implemented dispute mechanisms that will be available to the SMMEs, and also various other structural changes and shareholderships and also duties that would be applicable to the ministers of SEDFA, then I believe there could be better regulation and better delivery from that new entity.
Mm-hmm. So you are hopeful and confident that this new act goes far enough and does put in place the measures that are required for small businesses to flourish.
Yeah, look, I am confident that it does. It is a progressive move, and it should help SMMEs overcome the hurdles that have been impeding them for years now. And look, SMMEs are very important for our economy. I mean, contributing to over 40% towards the GDP alone. So the flourishing of SMMEs is pivotal to our economic growth and the creation of jobs. So I'm very confident that this bill will tackle these identified hurdles.
Indeed, and that's where we'll leave it for today. We'll have to see how this plays out and what sort of impact it has on the way in which the small business and small and medium enterprises also operate in South Africa, and what opportunities it brings for prospective entrepreneurs. That was Luthando Nondaba. He is the policy advisor at the National Employer Association of South Africa. This is On the Agenda.